Lawmakers are hearing hours of public testimony for and against the state Senate's controversial elections bill. Now, these bills are a priority for Republican lawmakers this special session after Democrats walked off the House floor instead of voting on election overhauls during the regular session. KXAN's Jacqueline Powell watched as Republicans and Democrats in the Senate Committee on State Affairs went back and forth for hours today over whether voter fraud is truly an issue in Texas and whether a number of voting restrictions are reasonable.
Is there any evidence that the Secretary of State has that drive-through voting increases the likelihood of voter fraud?
I don't think we have any evidence of actual fraud. There were problems involved with it, but I don't think it rises, nothing that we've seen rises to fraud.
Lawmakers questioned the Secretary of State's office about different types of voting that would be restricted or banned under Senate Bill 1, like drive-through voting or 24-hour voting.
Is there any evidence of increased instances of fraud at night or during those hours?
This last election was the first election that I'm aware of where we had any 24-hour voting, and I'm not aware of any fraud that occurred in that election at night at those places.
But the Attorney General's office says it is getting reports of voter fraud, with 386 claims currently under active investigation and 44 working their way through court.
But it's a very few cases of fraud in the state of Texas that's being prosecuted by the Attorney General's office, correct?
Our cases are a bit of a Rorschach test for folks that can look at the same picture of voter fraud that we, with a small team, show, and you can see, well, there's hardly any in the grand scheme of things, or you could see what we've found that's come through the filter of being detected, being reported, being investigated, being prosecuted, and saying that's evidence of a greater problem, and come to the opposite conclusions.
Meanwhile, those testifying on both sides in support.
There's currently many gaps, there's many ambiguities in the election code, and they need to be cleared up.
Or against, worrying how the legislation, if passed, may affect them.
I have quadriplegic cerebral palsy. My signature is inconsistent and could be disputed as not my own. The bill says I would need to appear in order to validate my mail-in ballot. If someone has to vote by mail because they are homebound, how could they go in? The way this reads is voter suppression because it does not accommodate for my disability.
Jacqueline Powell, KXAN News.
Well, once they get through all of the public testimony, lawmakers in that committee will vote on several amendments to the bill. Then they'll vote on whether to move it forward.